Let us now compose our mind. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. So firstly, we'd like to thank Vijay and Sister T and Bobby for inviting me for this session. And we thank everyone for coming in to also listen to this particular important subject about Bhikkhuni order and its development and challenges. So firstly, we'd like to introduce this presentation. This presentation will cover number one, the Buddha's intention and positive evaluation of the order of Bhikkhuni, and also the positive evaluation of the existence of the order of Bhikkhunis in early Buddhist discourses to prolong the Buddha Sasana. Number two is the coverage on a quick summary on higher ordination of past and present Bhikkhu Sangha and Bhikkhuni Sangha. And number three, the interpretation of the decline and the gender myth about female ordination. And number four is about the solution, whether it's a dual ordination and single ordination, and touching on the revival of Bhikkhuni Sangha. And the last is basically the conclusion on the gratitude to all the Theravada Bhikkhu Mahatheras, and also all the Bhikkhunis Mahatheris who now continue the Buddha's mission to ensure the 4 assemblies, to illuminate each assembly for the prolongation of the Sasana, and prohibition from ordaining actually leads to decline. But in support of the ordination of the Bhikkhunis will definitely help the 4th pillar of the Buddha to continue to support the 4 pillars of the Buddha Sasana. So next, I'd like to just start with the beginning on what is the Buddha's intention and evaluation of his Bhikkhuni Sangha. There are 3 versions, which is in Samhita Agama, Anguttara Nikaya, and the parallel in Ikotarika Agama. And I base this most from the research made by Bhikkhu Analayo and also Bhikkhu Bodhi. And here we can see how the Buddha spoke about his 4 assemblies. So the Buddha actually spoke to the bhikkhus in Savatthi and telling them there are 4 types of well-disciplined assemblies. Number 1, a disciplined bhikkhu assembly. Number 2, a disciplined bhikkhuni assemblies. And number 3, a disciplined male lay follower. And number 4, a disciplined female lay follower. And further, the Buddha mentioned, they are all capable at discussing without fear, being learned, they have penetrated the Dhamma, they practice the Dhamma, following the Dhamma. These are indeed the good assemblies. A bhikkhu who maintains his virtue pure, a bhikkhuni who is learned, a male lay follower who has pure faith, a female lay follower who's like that. And if these are reckoned the good assemblies, and the Buddha gives the simile, like the light of the sun, they shine on their own. Indeed, like this, the community is well. Indeed, this is what is excellent in the community. This condition leads to the excellence of the community, like the light of the sun shining on its own. So when the Buddha has spoken, the bhikkhus hearing what the Buddha had said were delighted and receive it respectfully. So the importance of these four assemblies, and especially here, we'd like to mention also the Bhikkhuni assemblies. So in the Pasadika Sutta, Digha Nikaya 29, and also the parallel in Digha Agama, the completeness of the holy life taught by the Buddha can be seen in the accomplishment of the four assemblies of his disciples. So here we can see that in these Pasadika Suttas, the Buddha was very happy that now, there are elder bhikkhu disciples of the Buddha who are experienced, trained, matured, attained to security from the yoke, able to teach the true Dhamma, able to trap with the true Dhamma, and any opposing doctrines that have arisen, and having trapped them to teach the Dhamma complete with miracles. They are now bhikkhu disciples of mine of middle standing. They are now junior bhikkhus, disciple of mine. They are now elder bhikkhuni, disciples of mine. Bhikkhuni disciples of mine of middle standing, junior bhikkhuni disciples of mine, and so on with also lay male disciples and female disciples, and all of them now in the Buddha's holy life has now become powerful, prosperous, detailed, well-populated, widespread, proclaimed among devas and human beings. So this is the expression during the Buddha's time to state the importance of this fourfold assembly of how the Buddha trained them and the achievement that has been accomplished during his time. And in another sutta, Mahavajjhagota Sutta, in Majjhima Nikaya 73, and also it's parallel to Samyutta Agama, the Buddha also mentioned about the completeness of the Buddha's teaching can be seen in the high numbers of bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who have become fully liberated, and in fact, also similarly high numbers of lay followers of both genders have reached other levels of awakening. And in this particular sutta, Vajja has asked the Buddha, apart from Master Gotama and the bhikkhus, is there any one bhikkhuni, Master Gotama's disciple, who by realizing for herself with direct knowledge here and now, enters upon and abides in the deliverance of mind and deliverance by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints? And the Buddha answered, there are not only 100 or 500, but 4 more bhikkhunis, my disciples, who by realizing for themselves with direct knowledge here. And this is where we can see that the Buddha's fourfold assembly is so important, and the mention of bhikkhunis is always there to show the completeness of the bhikkhuni sangha and also to the fourfold assemblies. Number third, the Buddha also in the Lakkhana Sutta in Digha Nikaya, and it has mentioned to the extent that the wheel marks of the soles of the Buddha's feet, in particular, were portents of his destiny to be surrounded by a large retinue of the four assemblies. And so we can, from these suttas, we can see that the goal of the practice for the four assemblies is always towards the realization of Nibbana. And each assembly is capable of doing so if they practice the Buddha's teaching well, and it naturally slopes to the realization of Nibbana. And there's another point that I'd like to highlight, and in Tevijja Suttas, Majjhima Nikaya 71, again, Vajragota asked one important question. He said, Master Gotama, are there any lay people who, without giving up the fetter of lay life, make an end of suffering when the body picks up? So the Buddha answered, no. So it means that in order to reach the final liberation, it is so important if one actually lead a monastic life. And then, of course, the Vajragota continue to ask whether there are any lay people who, without giving up the fetter of lay life, go to heaven and the body breaks up. So the Buddha said, there's not just 100, but there are more. So this means that the monastic life is important to end suffering. So from very beginning, the Buddha mentioned, open are the doors to the deathless. Let those who have ears release faith. From the above suttas, we can see that there is little doubt that the presence of accomplished bhikkhunis is a very positive light that illuminates the community, and that is evidence for the completeness of the holy life taught by the Buddha. And in another sutta, DN 16, Mahaparinibbana Sutta, and from the very beginning, after his enlightenment, Mara actually approached the Buddha to ask him to attain Parinibbana. But the Buddha's answer to him is this: evil one, I will not pass into final Nibbana until I have bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, upasaka, upasika disciples who are competent, well-trained, confident, learned, upholders of the Dhamma, practicing in accordance with the Dhamma, practicing properly, conducting themselves in accordance with the Dhamma, who have learned their own teacher's doctrine and can explain it, teach it, describe it, establish it, disclose it, analyze it, elucidate it, and having thoroughly refuted rival doctrines in accordance with reason, and can teach the compelling Dhamma. This was not just mentioned in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, but also discourses in Samyutta Nikaya and Anguttara Nikaya and Udana. So here again, we highlighted the Buddha's Chatuparisa, 4 assemblies. That's Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, and Upasika. And the Sangha consists of the noble bhikkhus and bhikkhunis and those in training to cross over all dukkhas and realize Nibbana. And for the Upasaka and Upasika, they consist male and female white-clad celibate, or those who still enjoying sensual pleasure household practitioners that are confident in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and living with basic principles of life and precepts that are inclined to Nibbana. For example, during Buddha's time, we can see Lady Visakha, or Chitta, or Anathapindika, or even King Bimbisara. So the four assembly also consists the Buddha's noble disciples, instructed noble disciples, which are 4 pairs, of person, 8 individuals, the path and attainment of stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and arahant. And for those who are not inclined or have no regard to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, or no regard to morality, to parents, cause and effect of actions, or the threefold training, they are always termed as uninstructed worldly, the Putujana. And this is where the Buddha mentioned, if one do not take the triple gems as their guide for liberation, this is where they will go into a vicious cycle of suffering, unsatisfactoriness, and unhappiness. So next, I would like to just bring you all to understand a little bit of a higher ordination of past and present Bhikkhu Sangha and Bhikkhuni Sangha, because we hear about Bhikkhuni order and Bhikkhuni ordination, but we are not very familiar with what it is about this higher ordination. So the past and present development of Sangha, the Buddha discovered the teaching of unsatisfactoriness and the cessation of unsatisfactoriness. The path that leads to the cessation of unsatisfactoriness is the Noble Eightfold Path. So this timeless Dhamma is beyond caste, belief, status, and gender. It's for those who will be willing to listen to the Buddha's message of deliverance from unsatisfactoriness. So the Buddha's fourfold assembly is to bring forth the Dhamma, protect the true teaching, and prolong sasana. The Buddha mentioned in Samyutta Sutta Nipata, one who has such a vehicle, the Dhamma, whether a woman or a man, has by this vehicle drawn close to Nibbana. So the Bhikkhu Sangha, how the development comes about. So about 2 months after the Buddha's enlightenment, at Isipatana, Deer Park in Sana, near Varanasi, or in the past it's named as Kasi or Benares in India. And it was the 5 ascetics. Here we also can understand that at the beginning, even the 5 ascetic, although the Buddha was enlightened, but the 5 ascetic was a bit hesitating to even accept him back, because they thought that the Buddha has not has left for the practice and not practicing the self-mortification. But then after the Buddha explained to them, then finally, of course, when they see him come nearer with a very serene composure and with the Buddha's declaration of those Dhamma that he has not said to them, now he has actually found the truth. And then after that, they finally accept the Buddha and respect him and listen to the Dhamma that the Buddha preached. And the first sermon we know is Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And the second one is Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. And through here, we found that Kondanya became a stream entry. And at the end of the second discourse, all of them attained Arahanthood. And from here, the first foundation, the Sangha, the Bhikkhu Sangha was formed. And later, the Buddha continued to preach to Vyasa and 54 friends, to all these very well-to-do Brahmin householder. And they too were converted because of their attainment. And then the mission of the this group, 16 Arahants, was sent out to continue to preach the Dhamma for the well-being, for the good of the many. And the Buddha continued to preach and led 1,000 disciples by all the 3 Kassappas, and later to Sariputta and Moggallana as the chief disciple. And that's how Buddhism continued to grow. So all this information we can find in the sutta, and we can also understand the Arahant exclamation to the Theragatha, and also the Vinaya. And now, how do they get ordination in the beginning of the early time when the Buddha ordained the bhikkhus? The early ordination by the Buddha is just the Buddha will mention to them, come bhikkhu. That's all. That's ordination. Ehi bhikkhu, yeah. And later, as more and more people actually join the sangha, ordination becomes taking refuge in the triple gem, yeah, and later ordination by Mahatheras, yeah. The Buddha appointed the competent senior monks, yeah, to do ordination. And then, of course, nowadays, the ordination will be by a quorum of Sangha of 10 teras or minimum with 5 with the Upajjhaya. So the ordination has to follow the Vinaya procedure in Pali, and they have a Sima to ordain. And also they need the clearance of obstacle for ordination. And of course, the way of how they accept the ordination during the Buddhist time is that if there's any other sect who wish to take ordination in the Buddha's dispensation, they need to go through a 4 months probation. So in early time, that's why they take refuge in the Triple Gem, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and then later they go forth. Permissions from parents to go homelessness is necessary. And as novice Samanera, they took 10 precepts, and they stay and guided by preceptor and Dhamma teacher. And in the ordination of bhikkhus, even up to today, they take, let's say, Samanera ordination in the morning, and in the afternoon they can also take Upasampada, higher ordination. That is for the bhikkhus, And the bhikkhus observe Patimokkha 227 precepts, and they are supposed to be trained in higher morality, higher mind, and higher wisdom. So again, they have to stay with and guided by preceptor or Dhamma teacher for 5 years of training. Nowadays, some center mostly will put in one particular level for training before they go forth to ensure that there are good qualities of Samaneras for training. So now we hear about the word Anagarika. So Anagarika is one who go to stay in a monastery and observe 8 precepts, and with the intention to train themselves also to go forth. Now we go to the ordination of Bhikkhunis. So the development of Bhikkhuni Sangha is about 5 years after the Buddha's enlightenment in Vesali, India. The Queen Mahapajapati Gautami, the first Bhikkhuni, and the 500 royal female descendants. And this is the first group of Bhikkhunis that form the Bhikkhuni Sangha. So later also, like King Bimbisara's consort queen came up, and we can find all this information in the Sutta, Discourses and Vinaya. And there are 73 poems of Therigattas of those Bhikkhuni who have attained to Arahanthood. And here we can also see the beginning of the ordination of Bhikkhunis was recorded in a way that how it was finally being permitted by the Buddha. And Venerable Ananda has helped to ask the Buddha whether women are capable of realizing the various stages of sainthood as Bhikkhuni. And the Buddha answered, they can, And then the Ananda, encouraged by the Buddha's reply, said, that if so, that is so, then it will be good if women could be ordained as Bhikkhuni. And then the Buddha replied that if Mahapajapati Gautami will accept the 8 conditions, it will be regarded that she has been ordained already as a bhikkhuni. So Gautami agreed to accept the 8 Garudamas and was accorded the status of the first bhikkhuni, especially when we, in Apadana, we can see that she was the long-standing bhikkhuni, the eldest among all the bhikkhunis. And that was the way she was ordained. Later, after her ordination, the Buddha also empowered the senior competent bhikkhus to give full ordination to other 500 bhikkhunis. And that was also stated in the Chulavagga. And the Buddha mentioned, bhikkhus, I allow you to give ordination to the bhikkhuni. And indeed, this particular allowance stays until today, yeah, since the Buddha's time until today. So the Upasampada, higher ordination of bhikkhuni, yeah, basically also we have one record, yeah, in Therigatha about Ehi Bhikkhuni, yeah, of a bhikkhuni. But somehow, not much information is found. But the second one, of course, is the Garudhamma, Mahapajapati Gautami. And later, the Buddha empowered ordination from Bhikkhu Mahatheras for the first 500 founding bhikkhunis. And then later, due to Antarayika Dhamma, meaning when you take ordination, there are 45 clearance, that obstacle that you have to confess. Yeah? Like for example, whether you have leprosy or skin problems, or whether you are a female, or whether you are heterosexual, those kind of question. So because some candidates of bhikkhunis feel very shy to answer, because earlier it was asked by the bhikkhus. So later, due to that, the Buddha actually also appoint the bhikkhunis to hold this particular ordination before they go to the forum of the Bhikkhu Sangha for ordination. So in that process, again, they have to follow the Vinaya procedure in Pali for ordination, Sima, and then the most important thing is at the end, the ordination by Bhikkhu Sangha of 10 teras, or minimum 5 in the Sangha. Yeah? So the higher ordination of a bhikkhuni is completed by the higher ordination by Bhikkhu Sangha. So the gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual realization, yeah, for the bhikkhunis is more or less same as like bhikkhu, yeah? And except this one slight change. They too have to take refuge. And then in the modern time, we also have this Anagarika, 8 precept, who is clad in white and is a celibate. And going forth, that person also should take permission from their parents, as also to become novice seminary with 10 precepts and stay and guided by a preceptor Dhamma teacher. There's another level that is incorporated that is called Sikkamana. So this Sikkamana is a probation. They're going to take bhikkhuni ordination, but they are under probation for at least 2 years and stay and guided by their preceptor teacher. The reason of this particular process of ordination is because due to a case of the bhikkhuni get pregnant, but not because when she's a bhikkhuni, but before that she is unaware that she's pregnant. Right? So this rule come in and to make sure that the female who are candidate for higher ordination is clear, yeah, from this particular matter. So the higher ordination of bhikkhuni, they took the Patimokkha 311 precepts, and also going for the training of higher morality, higher mind, and higher wisdom. So they are required to stay and guided by Bhikkhuni teacher for 2 to 5 years of training. Now, a lot of people still in our time associate Bhikkhuni's ordination with the decline of the sasana, but actually a lot of time you can see there's a gender myth in perceiving about Bhikkhuni order. So indeed we know that the decline of early Buddhism during 12 AD, Buddhism was totally wiped out due to war and famine, and change of mainstream religion by the conqueror in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, South India, Chola, and the trade route and later further affected by colonial indoctrination in 1580 to 1980. So the domino effect from India to northern West and northern East of India, Sri Lanka, China, Southeast Asia, and etc. Shows the decline of Buddha's early teaching. Even in Malaysia, we can see that development. So artifacts in Malaysia, like in Bujang Valley, we can see there are artifacts from 2nd AD, 5 AD, 12 AD, where we have a Hindu-Buddhist settlement, but more to the Mahayana influence. And during 15 AD, the king of Kedah was converted to Islam, and later feudal system, and followed by colonial imperialism with the divide and rule. This is regionally what happened. But to the Buddhist community, and what is the later interpretation that leads to many challenges? One of it is there are too many gender myths, which I will later share with you all, and also unfounded traditional rumors and hearsay, which need proper correction in accordance with the Dhamma Vinaya. Number two, the challenges of giving other term to imply going forth that does not resemble the Buddha's intention of gradual training for Bhikkhuni, thus created confusion. For example, like lay preceptor and Shivan and in uniform, and they give them many different names. Number three, there's no proper gradual training of morality, samadhi, and wisdom for the people who renounce and people who intend to go forth. Number four, they are more richer in devotion rather than proper Theravada teaching according to the Buddha's teaching and practice. Example from the Pali Nikaya. Number five, potential caliber candidates were denied access for higher ordination. Few local bhikkhus support due to oppression, thus lack of Bhikkhuni nunnery and proper program for Bhikkhuni training. Six, scarce availability and support from the bhikkhus to sincerely train and to provide for higher ordination within a country. So the first is the perception of most Theravada traditionalists that the Buddha's earlier refusal or hesitant to ordain, and the simile of the household that is easily assailed and of the fields afflicted by a disease illustrate the problem ordained women might encounter in ancient Indian society if they were to wander around freely, since rape and similar abuse appear to be common. But in the later interpretation, they see this as the coming into being of an order of bhikkhunis will shorten the lifespan of Dhamma by half. So their interpretation is that from 1,000 years to 500 years. Later, it was reinterpreted to be 5,000 years. But the original statement states that the right Dhamma and the holy life will last for only 500 years. So this leads to the interpretation of causal relationship between the existence of bhikkhunis and the decline of Dhamma, which impacted and led to the controversy of bhikkhuni ordination. The fear of decline kept alive by the fact that revival of Bhikkhuni order involves Bhikkhunis from the Mahayana tradition to fulfill dual ordination. But let's look at what is stated in the Anguttara Nikaya 8.51 about the statement of the decline. Here, of course, the Buddha mentioned if women had not obtained the going forth from home life to homelessness in Dhamma and Vinaya, made known by the Tathagata, the holy life would have lasted long. The true Dhamma would have lasted 1,000 years. But now that they have obtained the going forth from home life into homelessness in the Dhamma and Vinaya, the holy life will not last long. The true Dhamma will last only 500 years. And then the Buddha gives the simile, just as a clan in which there are many women and few men is easily plundered by robbers and thieves. This is one of the simile. Then the Buddha mentioned about the field being infested by the insects. But at the end, what is being interpreted is just only the upper part. And the lower part that I'd like to highlight is that the Buddha said, just as a man might make an embankment in advance around a great reservoir to keep the waters from overflowing, means from all these things from happening, in the same way I have set forth in advance the 8 rules of respect for Bhikkhunis that they are not to transgress as long as they live. So the Buddha always gives some simile in the front, and then he will conclude. But what we see is that people always quote the front part, but they never talk about the what we call the action that the Buddha has put in place to help the sasana, the Bhikkhuni Sangha, to be able to continue also to thrive and also to shine. So this is a very important part that I think a lot of people miss, or even some of the traditionalists may mention, but they never quote this as something important for the conclusion of this particular statement. So sometimes it can mislead. For example, the Buddha talks in Kalama Sutta, don't just merely believe hearsay or believe logic and believe teacher, but the Buddha conclude with, if you see and you know that is not blamable, then if you see that is good to cultivate, and if you see it's harmless, then you accept. So if a person quote the front part, they can be just like a free thinker, thinking that is what the Buddha said and they can do anything, but not true. The Buddha mentioned on the second part. So the quotation sometimes can be quite misleading when we just focus on one part and never conclude with the other part. So the Buddha also mentioned, here I like to quote, with regard to what is present, if it's unfactual, untrue, and unbeneficial, the Tathagata does not declare it. If it's factual, true, but unbeneficial, the Tathagata does not declare it. If it's factual, true, and beneficial, the Tathagata has a sense of proper time for giving the answer to that question. So we know that during that time, when the Buddha finally give permission for the ordination, it's not because the Buddha is hesitant or refused, but it's not time yet. So we can see that the timeliness of how the Buddha execute the development of the sasana that helps to bring the prosperous development of these 4 assemblies. And the Buddha also said, with regard to things that are past, future, and present, the Tathagata is one who speaks at the proper time. Speak what is true, speak what is factual, speaks the meaning, speaks Dhamma, speaks Vinaya. Thus he is called the Tathagata. So before this, I have introduced you some of the suttas, and we can see that the Buddha again and again speaks good about the four assembly, and that include Bhikkhuni. So the Buddha has no hesitant, but it's just timeliness to execute some of the teaching or the development of the Sangha. Now we come to this Garu Dhamma, the rule to be respected. And that's why some of the controversy that comes actually is because of some misunderstanding, or maybe the interpretation, a later interpretation. And still some of them are still holding to this interpretation, which may not be helpful for the sasana. So number one is a bhikkhuni who has been ordained even for 100 years must greet respectfully, rise up from the seat, salute with joint palms, do proper homage to a bhikkhu ordained by that day. Yeah? But in other Vinaya, we can recount the story of bhikkhus who are not respectable. Yeah? For example, they show their ties to the bhikkhunis. So when this was reported to the Buddha, then the Buddha actually told the bhikkhuni not to pay respect to these bhikkhus. So a bhikkhuni will bow to a bhikkhu who is worthy of respect. Yeah? And we can see that the Buddha, from time to time, will promulgate certain rules. When something that happened, then the Buddha will actually put up some rules to help the Sangha to continue to maintain their good reputation and practice, so that it will bring faith for more people there to come into the Dhamma. So later also, Mahapajapati also requests for that there will be equally importance for bhikkhus and bhikkhunis to be respected according to seniority. But anyway, this particular rule stays as even extends up to today. So the importance is for us to understand that when a person is worthy of respect, we should respect. And for the Sangha, the Bhikkhu Sangha is after the Buddha's Mahaparinibbana, they carry on the Buddha Sasana. And this is where the salutation is for the Sangha also to continue to try. And of course, respect needs to be earned. In any way, it's a good practice for humility. Second one, a bhikkhuni must not spend the rains in residence where there are no bhikkhus. This is the reason, most likely, why the Buddha put this in, because in the Buddha's time, even in Indian tradition and culture, female are protected by their parent, their father when they're young, by husband when they got married, and when the husband died, they depend on their son or their elder brother. So if they are not protected by all this, easily they are raped. And even some bhikkhunis, whether alone, sometimes 2%, a group also being raped. So therefore, to ensure that the bhikkhunis are safe, the Buddha also make it that the bhikkhuni should not spend rains in a residence where there are no bhikkhus nearby. So every half month means a bhikkhuni should desire two things: ask for observation, uposatha, and also the ovada, teaching from the monk. So these are to ensure that they continue to receive guidance and teaching from the bhikkhu. Then number 4 is for them to invite feedback from their practice from both orders. And apparently, if you see all these rules that is stated in the Garu Dhamma is actually in the Patimokkha Paticciya. But these are only minor rules, but it is placed in this particular Garu Dhamma. So there's question sometimes about whether, because the Buddha only promulgate rules when it happened, but if Mahapajapati is the first bhikkhuni and this rule is already promulgated, then at times the scholars also have a little bit of question mark, yeah, whether it is really at the time of the ordination of Mahapanchapati Gautami. Yeah? So the next, actually, I'd like to highlight number 5. A bhikkhuni offending against an important rule must undergo penance, half month to correct their behavior. Number 6 is the main issue. Yeah? When as a probationer, she has trained in the 6 rules for 2 years in Sikamana, she should seek higher ordination from both orders. So this is where the Theravada tradition is always highlighted. But again, the question comes, because she is the first bhikkhuni, yeah, and the Buddha actually gave the ordination, and there is no probation that she has to go through, but this rule already come up, yeah. So, and because of this, they said that the bhikkhuni of today have to go for both ordination, yeah, dual ordination, and because there is no more bhikkhunis in the world, so therefore they are not supposed to take higher ordination. No bhikkhuni to ordain them. But again, like I said, how to resolve this matter, yeah? Later we will explain. Number 7, a bhikkhu must not be abused or reviled in any way by a bhikkhuni. Number 8, admonition of bhikkhu by bhikkhuni is forbidden. Yeah, but lay people can highlight, yeah, feedback. Like for example, like Lady Visakha, yeah. Sometimes when you observe the bhikkhu's behavior or certain things that she observes is not so right, she will highlight and also report to the Buddha. Yeah? Now, what is the gender myth and hearsay even until today, yeah, that we are experiencing? Statement number 1, yeah, why ordination of bhikkhuni had some controversy in the early days. But anyway, of course, bhikkhuni ordination has started in 1996, yeah. But just for the understanding, yeah, of most people, and maybe you are also having this question in mind. Some chief prelates say, in this era, there's no more Buddha to give higher ordination to bhikkhuni. They thought that only the Buddha can give higher ordination to bhikkhuni. So they tell, wait for Maitreya Buddha to come. Yeah, then only you can ordain as bhikkhuni. So, but I think if you logically reflect, yeah, does anyone knows when Maitreya Buddha is coming? But for now, surely we know we are still in the Buddha Gautama period, where we still are able to access to the Buddha's early teaching and practice, the Dhamma Vinaya. It's foolish to wait for uncertainty and miss this precious triple gem, the gem of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Yeah? And the Buddha's advice is to be steadfast in goodness, yeah, and train for liberation here and now, and for the sustenance of the Buddha's sasana. All right? So do not wait. Yeah? Statement number 2. They say no point for women to meditate also because they cannot become Buddha. Right? Women must make aspiration to be born as men next life. Huh? Even Buddha hesitated to ordain bhikkhuni as women are feeble. The answer is, are men born from woman's womb? I mean, during the Buddha's time also, the Buddha will like, the Brahmins say they are born from the mouth of the Brahma, yeah? And the Buddha said, no, everyone born from the mother's womb, yeah? So, if this is the statement, I think people will have this question in mind. Yeah? Everyone are born, yeah, from the mother's womb. Yeah? The Buddha said, men and women, when practiced well, the Dhamma Vinaya can attain arahantship, liberation in this life. Why wait for next life to become men? The Buddha mentioned 3 paths of liberation: Sammasa Buddha, Pacceka Buddha, and Savaka Buddha, Arahant. So liberation is not about becoming men. It's about relinquishment of all defilements and cessation of suffering, free from birth and death. One of the Buddha's epithet is Arahant, yeah? One who has slain all defilements. It is recorded that there were many bhikkhunis who attained arahantship during the Buddha's time as women. Yeah? Statement number 3. Yeah? Women do not need to take higher ordination as bhikkhuni to attain enlightenment. Practice as layperson will do. Yeah? So the answer is, this is really a very degenerate view for Sasana. Because if this is the case, then people will question why men take higher ordination. Yeah? So the Buddha repeatedly highlighted household life is full of dust and the going forth is free like an open space. Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni are ordained by Vinaya procedures and not by tradition or hearsay. The Buddha's mission for his disciples are set for full-time commitment and practice for the development of higher morality, higher mind, and higher wisdom that leads to the path and fruition of liberation. So the Buddha's Sasana can prolong. When there is no more bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, Dhamma Vinaya will decline and disappear totally. So the only way that bhikkhuni ordination will totally disappear is when there is no more bhikkhuni sangha. Statement number 4. If women take higher ordination, Sasana will shorten 500 years. Actually, the Buddha, just now I mentioned to you, yeah, and the Buddha has put in place, yeah, the way of how he made the guidelines so that the Sasana can prolong. Yeah? So actual causes for the decline and disappearance of the Dhamma is not due to bhikkhuni ordination. Yeah, I think bhikkhuni are not so powerful. Yeah, and each of the sangha, and especially we say is very important. And but the Buddha cautioned, yeah, how the decline will take place. The Buddha said, number 1, when the bhikkhus learn discourses that are badly acquired, with words and phrases badly set down, and meaning badly interpreted. Second, bhikkhus possess quality that is difficult to correct, are impatient and do not accept instruction respectfully, difficult to admonish. Third, those bhikkhu who are learned, heirs to the heritage, experts on the Dhamma, experts on the discipline, experts on the outlines, do not respectfully teach the discourses to others. When they have passed away, the discourses are cut off at the root, left without anyone to preserve them. Fourth, the elder bhikkhus are luxurious and lax, leaders in backsliding, discarding the duty of solitude. They do not arouse energy for the attainment of the as yet to attain, for the achievement of the as yet to achieve, and for the realization of yet to realize. These lead to the decline and disappearance of the good Dhamma. Next, the Buddha also said, when fourfold assembly do not respect Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, the threefold training and samadhi, and the fourfold assembly do not treat each other with loving kindness, and they are not hateful, this is the time where the Buddha's Sasana will decline, not because of bhikkhuni. Statement number 5. In one of the Garu Dhammas, there should be bhikkhuni and bhikkhu to ordain a sikkamana, but now the lineage died off. Therefore, no bhikkhuni to give ordination. And so it's not valid, so they think so. But actually, bhikkhuni lineage in certain countries continue to thrive. For example, if you look at the history, so Mahapajapati Gautami from Kapilavastu go to Vaisali to take the ordination. Then this missionary to Sri Lanka by Venerable Sangamita Teri, King Asoka's daughter, in 3rd BCE. Then there's also a record that Venerable Devasara Teri that went to China to ordain the Chinese nun, bhikkhuni, because earlier they just used single ordination, but they were invited to ordain, in China. And from China, we know that the Bhikkhuni also spread to Korea, Vietnam, and Taiwan until today. So, however, in certain countries, due to war, famine, caste, and protected dominance, the Bhikkhuni Sangha disappeared and faced difficulty in re-establishing it due to caste system and patriarchy or feudal system and resistance. Yeah. So Bhikkhuni lineage that still thrive in Korea and Taiwan, and this actually became one of the source of connecting back to the Bhikkhuni lineage. But if you look at this, we can also reflect, is there any proof that in all the countries that have Bhikkhu, are their lineage not broken at all? So no one can prove that. But of course, we know that the importance of the Buddha's teaching from very beginning, the complete spiritual life that the Buddha has led, and the disciples that can remain in the world were definitely for the welfare, happiness, and benefit of many people. And our compassion for the world, for the good welfare and happiness of devas and humans. So the continuity is necessary and important. So now, single ordination or dual ordination. So we know that the Buddhas actually in the Chula Raga allowed the bhikkhu to ordain the bhikkhuni. And in 1996, the first ordination, revival of bhikkhuni ordination has taken place. And in 1998 is another time of ordination. And this is said to be fulfilling the requirement for the ordination. And from there, then it starts to spread too. So what happened is that the senior bhikkhus are empowered to give higher ordination. As we reflect, the first 500 bhikkhunis, they are not ordained by the Buddha. I think from very beginning, the Buddha knew that the importance of the Bhikkhu Sangha to continue to take this role for the promotion of Sasana. And this rule also didn't supersede other rules, and it stays until today. Statement number 6, born as a woman is due to bad karma. Thus cannot take higher ordination. If women take higher ordination, then it is bad karma. So if man and woman has their, actually the answer is whether man or woman, they have their wholesome and unwholesome karma. Good and bad karma are determined by their mental, verbal, and physical action, not because of gender. In the Dakina Vibhanga Sutta, out of 7 gifts given to the Sangha, which is meritorious, 5 are to the bhikkhunis. All right? Statement number 7. Only the chief prelate of the country have the power and position to recognize the Bhikkhuni Sangha. The Buddha's 4 assemblies or community are clearly known and recognized for their virtues, learnedness, and attainment. In the Buddha's time, there's no chief prelate. And who are the one that recognize? Of course, is their virtue, learnedness, and attainment. So this is how they are recognized. Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni are ordained by Vinaya. Until today, there are 3 ordination extant and still survive. And one of them is the Theravada Vinaya. The Theravada Vinaya procedures are that the Bhikkhuni receive proper training and higher ordination from the Bhikkhu Sangha, followed by the Vinaya procedures and guidelines for ordination. So in the spirit of Mahabharata, we can see that the Buddha asks us to always reflect. If somebody say, oh, this is what the Buddha said, you have to investigate whether it's true or not, and to the Dhamma and Vinaya. If they say a group of monks say so, or Sangha say so, then the Buddha also asks us to also evaluate and investigate. And if some monks say so, we also have to investigate. And if one famous monk say so, we also have to investigate whether it's true or not. And but we know that the recognition doesn't come from a chief elite or a person, yeah, but the recognition of the true Sangha comes from their virtue, their learnedness, and attainment. Yeah. Number 8, Bhikkhuni is not able to take higher ordination in their own country due to the state law. Yeah. Some countries, like probably like in Thailand, it says so, but actually the constitution has changed. Yeah, yeah, their new constitution is not like that, but they still hold on to the old decree. Yeah? The Buddha has not appointed any successor, but instead advised after his Mahaparinirvana, the Brahma is a teacher. Higher ordination of Upasampada has been all the while the matter of the Bhikkhu Sangha, and as Bhikkhuni Sangha has been established, the dual ordination can be performed. Ultimately, the competent Bhikkhu Sangha is empowered to give ordination to the Bhikkhuni. As in the Chula Vagga is always mentioned, Bhikkhus, I allow you to ordain the Bhikkhunis, and not politics and common law. Yeah? Due to this distortion, they may do more harm to the Buddha Sasana and lead to more oppression and disease. Yeah? Alternatively, candidates take international Bhikkhuni ordination in Sri Lanka, India, Indonesia, Australia, USA, and hopefully in future Malaysia. When it is carried out earnestly with a proper quorum of competent senior bhikkhus, the clearance of obstacles and Vinaya guidelines for higher ordination is valid. Yeah? It will be wonderful that the Bhikkhu Sangha of each country give Bhikkhuni ordination locally, so the Buddha Sasana can continue to grow peacefully. So this is the show. Still, there's at this moment alternative. They take higher ordination. They just have to apply to another country. But we hope that Bhikkhu Sangha of each country will help. Yeah. So attempts to revive Bhikkhuni ordination have a long history. Yeah. So in Thailand, of course, this happened. It was not successful. But later, in 1996, Venerable Apagama Vipula Saramatera, and also Venerable Dangoda Revata, and also about 8 other senior bhikkhus, yeah, including one of them, our late chief Kesri Namananda's friend, I think Venerable Anuruddha, was in Hong Kong. And this was the attempt of Mahabodhi Society of India, and they braced themselves to restore the Buddhist Fourfold Assembly in 1996. In order to answer the dual ordination, they make the effort even like to trace, yeah, to China, yeah, the record of Bhikkhunis from Sri Lanka that went to China to ordain them. So they took this as the Bhikkhuni lineage that still survived, and the Korean Bhikkhuni, senior Bhikkhuni, came here to execute the first part of the ordination, and they are only what they call apply that lineage and not for the vocation. Yeah? So at the first ordination, because it was the first, so everything was very not so known. Yeah, and so at the beginning, of course, the Mahayana Bhikkhunis, they also do the ordination in accordance to their Mahayana way. Yeah? But then for the second ordination in 1998, this was done without, yeah, and they do not take any bodhisattva vow, but they go according to the Theravada tradition. And so scholarly agreed that although we started with 1998, but 1990, although we started with 1996, but 1998 is where they concluded that the requirement, yeah, for the higher ordination was fulfilled properly. Yeah. So, but due to this, then there's more research coming out, and a lot of what they call investigation and to refine, yeah, and the training and the development start to take place. So we can see that for about 1,000 years, that the word Bhikkhuni doesn't exist. Okay, and after that, then people start to learn there's a Bhikkhuni order. Okay? And from there, of course, there are supports that come. There are also some reacted to this, but in any way, it was started. And I still remember this one particular monk is during my ordination. He mentioned, he said, there's so much conferences, discussion about whether Bhikkhuni order can be established or not. Yeah, but he said it is so simple. We all know that the Buddha's Chatuparisa, 4 assemblies consist 4, yeah, Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, and Upasika. And if you take a simile of a table, he said, and you see that one table is missing, and say, are you going to organize a lot of conferences and discussion about whether we should put the leg back or not put the leg back, right? And they say, we have been investing so much time to discuss about whether we should put or don't put the leg back. They say, just fix the leg, because why? If the table is having 3 legs, then will it be stable? They say, yeah. They say, if the table simile is not so apparent to you, you say, let's take a chair, you sit on a chair, and 1 leg is missing. Will you comfortably sit on it? They say, just fix it, and that's it. Then they can continue to be stable and continue to grow. Yeah, so it's as simple as that, is it? But we are using so much time to just discuss on this. Yeah, but I think the gratitude to this batch of senior bhikkhus that have braved themselves to restore the Buddha's 4-4 assembly. Yeah? So Bhikkhuni Kusuma was the first to lead the ordination, and she was a professor before, and she just passed away last year at the age of 92. By the time I think she took the higher ordination, she was already, that was 1996, yeah. So she was quite elderly at the time, but she also braved herself to be the first, yeah, to lead the other bhikkhunis. So we can see that the time for timely ordination and attainment is important. Even the Buddha, before Mahapajapati Gautami attained her parinibbana, and the Buddha actually instructed Gautami, and the Buddha said, there are fools who doubt that women too gain Dhamma penetration. To dispel that wrong view of theirs, display miracle Gautami. Having bowed to the Buddha with the Buddha's permission, Gautami displayed her progress in the knowledge and direct penetration of Dhamma. So even the Buddha's time, still there are people who doubt, but the Buddha actually instructed Mahapajapati Gautami to display her progress in the knowledge and penetration of the Dhamma. So for the bhikkhunis, it's very important to cultivate their mind so that not only the ordination, but is through the cultivation that the bhikkhuni will continue, will be recognized, and will be able to continue to grow. So these are the, like I said, the Chinese report, and also how the bhikkhuni existence, even in 8th century still are there. So now the bhikkhuni that of today is on the late 20th century, and we are actually celebrating our 25th anniversary already. So for those who do not know the existence of bhikkhuni, for your information, the bhikkhuni order already established since 1996. So what are the Theravada traditions concerned? Normally, bhikkhus concerned, some of the senior concerned. Number one is the Buddha's early refusal of bhikkhuni order. I think I've answered that. Another intervention, and after the Buddha's Mahaparinibbana, he was asked to confess that he has committed an offense. And because he intervened in the ordination of bhikkhuni. So they still hold to this. And then the length of sasana, I also explained. And for the Theravada traditionalism, there's one thing that they always keep to that is they say that there's no amendment of Vinaya rules. So they follow the letters of Vinaya rules, yeah, as is. But for example, if you see for example, let's say the bhikkhu can only have 3 robes, yeah, but they won't amend that because they stick to the rules, but they change the name. So when after officially, let's say they take up the robe as their possession, now they use the word, let's say, as a requisite cloth, so they can have extra. Yeah. Instead of changing the rules, they cannot change the rules. Yeah, but they use other way, other term to help themselves to change. Yeah, so they will stick to the letter. But we can see actually this is also not in accordance to what the Buddha has been practiced. Yeah, and the Buddha goes according to the need at that time. Yeah, and how they can continue to maintain the importance or the way the Sangha can function with respect and for the good development. So the Theravada tradition is also in ordination and whatever that they do, yeah, in this particular development, you must use Pali recitation for ordination and must also have accurate pronunciation. Yeah? So therefore, they use, like when we ordain, they use the person's candidate's name. We don't use the person's name. We say Naga. And the preceptor name Tisa. Because they don't want to pronounce your name wrongly, then it's not valid. Right? So there are more technical things that I won't share too much, but just for information. And also ordination must be in a sima boundary, properly constructed. Yeah. Ordination must be according to Pali Vinaya procedure, guidelines, and Patimokkha, not other Patimokkha. Yeah? And then they want to maintain the Theravada identity. Yeah? So Theravada identity means the sayings of the seniors or the compilation, yeah, the sayings that is compiled in the Pali Nikaya. So these are their concerns. So the question, are there Theravada Bhikkhuni ordinations valid? So how to get validation? First, I think it's important a forum of competent senior bhikkhus. Yeah? Then you must have a sima boundary, Vinaya procedure, guidelines, and Patimokkha for bhikkhunis, the recitation, and then the based on the Chulabhaga, and after ordination, 2 years of bhikkhuni training. So these are complied, yeah, by the bhikkhuni ordination. So now, as today, how the bhikkhuni can be trained, yeah, or those who are aspiring for higher ordination. So what they can do is, as a laity, they can stay in a monastery for 3 months to serve, observe, and practice with the teacher to gauge one's sincere intent and teacher's virtue. Yeah? And commit to practice homelessness and reside in monastery under teacher's supervision and guidance, and bearing white as anagarikas, practicing 8 precepts for 1 year, again to gauge one's intention and action. Yeah? Next, when the teacher-disciple relationship, the trust is developed, then they can request for pavaja going forth as novice seminary, practicing 10 precepts for some time. So if ready for higher training, seminary can seek for Sikhamana training, minimum 2 years, yeah, for higher ordination. After completion of seminary or Sikhamana training for minimum 2 years, when well developed, can apply for higher ordination and stay with teacher minimum 2 to 5 years for further training as bhikkhuni. So nowadays, these are the practices for the higher ordination. Now, many people may not know how many bhikkhuni and samaneris in the world. So we were told in Sri Lanka there are more than 4,000. Thailand, more than 270. Vietnam, more than 100. And as at today, I think there are nearly 60 old Bhikkhuni centers around the world. Yeah. So these are familiar faces that also support the Bhikkhuni ordination. Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, Venerable Analayo. These are the experts of the Nikayas, and not only our Pali Nikaya, but also the Agama in the Chinese extent. And Bhikkhu Analayo also have written a lot of comparison on the legality of Bhikkhuni ordination. And so we are very fortunate as some of these very prominent bhikkhus who are well known of their knowledge and skill in the compilation of the Nikayas translation. They are very helpful in a way to bring about the understanding of the ordination and also how this Bhikkhuni ordination is indeed valid. Bhante Gunaratana is also one of great supporter for this. This is the ordination in Australia in 2009. Venerable Tataloka Mahateri is the Pawatini, and 4 Bhikkhunis at that time were ordained. And in 2019, they are already of 10 years. Yeah, so now they are parished already. This is the ordination in 2012, Bhikkhuni Upasampara, and also for seminary in Mahapajapati Gautami Temple, Vaisali, in Bihar, India. And the preceptor teacher at that time was Nyama Elder Bhikkhu named Nyaninda from Bogaya. When I go to Bogaya, normally I visited him. He's a very nice and very knowledgeable senior bhikkhus. So he became the Upajjhaya. This is a Bhikkhuni ordination in Perth again, 2014. I was there. At that time, I was still a seminary. Yeah, and to witness also the ordination, dual ordination. And the ordination Sima, this is in Sri Lanka. Yeah? This is called Water Sima, where the place where ordination takes place in Sakyadita International Center in Sri Lanka. And they still continue to ordain Bhikkhuni when there's candidates. This is one of the ordination in Mahaviraya Kelaniya, where one of our Bhikkhunis from Malaysia also took the ordination in January. And Bhante Saranankara, you can see is there. This is my own ordination in Indonesia. Ayya Santini is my Pawatini, and Bhante Saranankara is my Upajjhaya. And of course, there are some articles that came up to also share the joy of this ordination. And during this ordination, 2 from Malaysia, 2 from Indonesia, and Australia. Also, we have Japan 1, and Sri Lanka 1, and 2 from Vietnam. So this is our first Vasa. And here you can see these 2 Bhikkhuni. They are the Bhikkhunis. This is Venerable Sumitra Mahateri, and this is Venerable Sumana Pali Mahateri. They are from the batch of 1998. So we were very fortunate to have our Vasa together and to learn from them. Ayya Santini was ordained in year 2000. So this is our Vasa Katina. And the devotees were so rejoiced with this. And this is where we assign the robe to the most senior. Here is one of these 2 is also from the batch of 1998. 2016, another higher ordination in Sri Lanka, and 4 from Bangladesh. they came to take the higher ordination and returned to form the Sangha. This is an international Bhikkhuni ordination, 2019. I was there also. And they are Bhikkhunis from Vietnam, Thailand, and also from China, Taiwan. And here you can see Bhikkhu Bodhi also in the quorum of the Sangha for the ordination. And Bhante P. Sivali Teru from Mahabodhi Society, and Bhante Bimala Jyoti from Sri Lanka, and some of the very senior bhikkhus who came for this ordination. Now, in Buddhist Mahavihara in Malaysia, Chief, the late Chief K.C. Dhammananda Nayaka Mahathera played a very important role. In 1998, he was one of the senior bhikkhus who sit in the forum for the higher ordination. Yeah. And then now Venerable Dhammaratana, who's the chief monk there, also support the Bhikkhuni ordination. So Bhante Saranankara, this is his temple, yeah, and he is Upajaya for higher ordination for Bhikkhunis. These are my teacher, Venerable Mahinda Thera. He said if I have 5 Bhikkhunis, then he will come for the ordination. So, and Bhante Dhammapala, who is very supportive, and all of you are here. And Bhante Dhammapala is my Kamavacha Acharya, yeah, the one that read motion for the Bhikkhu Sangha. And now Bhante Agachita, who's very kind, he has also advised us for the how we can develop the Sima, Bhikkhuni Sima properly. Yeah? And so we are very thankful for all the senior bhikkhus, and they are also the monastic advisor for the Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia. So in order for the Malaysian Bhikkhuni Sangha to continue to grow, and for those who are interested in Malaysia, we have started Arya Vihara Buddhist Society to answer the call for the Bhikkhuni development in Malaysia. And we hope that with our knowledge, skills, and sharing of Dhamma, they will be able to finally develop more and more candidates for this higher ordination. In Malaysia, we have around 6 Bhikkhunis, yeah, and 2 are always traveling, yeah, and there are 2 who is more on the Chinese language, and so for the development and taking on this mission, we have actually got a land to build the future Bhikkhuni Nunnery and Dhamma Training Center. Yeah. So I got this inspiration from the late chief when I asked him, you know, why he didn't start the Bhikkhuni order in Malaysia. And his answer to me at that time is that because he was actually 85 years old then, and he told me he's too old for this. Yeah. And he said that somebody have to take the lead and also prepare a place, a training center, and come up with a good training program. And he said Bhikkhuni Sangha will flourish. So we take his word and his blessings. And I think today we are very happy that we are already receiving land from the state government, the Selangor state government. And we are now in the process of planning and developing this particular nunnery and training center. So we hope probably if everything goes on fine, we should be able to construct in 2003. And 2023, yeah, correct. 2023, and hopefully everything goes on fine, then we can complete by 2025. Right? So if you wish to see more about the Bhikkhuni Center, you can always go to Gautami Vihara Society website, look for Alliance of Bhikkhuni and click on directory. So future training, I think for Bhante Dhammapada, Bhante Maharamapala also have a vision that maybe, yeah, Brahma Vihara will become a dual, what they call Sangha in the future, right? So we thank everyone for your attention, and we hope that all of us, the four Sangha, the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, and Upasika, yeah, will help each other to continue to shine for the well-being, happiness, and benefit of the man. So thank you very much.